Welcome again to another edition of Not Your Father's Data Center. I think we're like episode 54 or 55 now. I lose track. They'll probably yell at me for naming the number of episodes, but we're in the mid-50s. Today we are joined by Chief People Officer, one of the coolest titles you can have in corporate America, Lauren Bacon-Smith, who is with our friends at Enable Intelligence. Laura, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I'm in Dallas, Texas, as always, not always, but almost always when I record. Lauren, where are you?
I am in the Washington, D.C. area in Northern Virginia, Falls Church, more specifically. All right. You can see the Capitol from there, can you? Yeah, probably over the tree line. Yeah, not too far away.
All right. Very cool. Well, love getting to hang out in D.C. It does frustrate me occasionally. We won't get into politics. We'll just focus on business here today. But so give us, before we get into what Enable Intelligence does and how you guys serve your customers and our government, would love to hear a little bit about you. How did you get in the business? How did it get started? Give us a little bit of background on you personally, and then we'll transition into Enable Intelligence.
So I, prior to coming to Enabled Intelligence, I actually worked for Hilton Hotels for almost 9 years, and I helped start up and run their military hiring program there. And we, really just kind of had a really big focus on culture and people and inclusion in general at Hilton. But my main focus was in that military space. So really kind of having a strategic, specialized hiring program, hiring and retention program. So when I had the opportunity to be introduced to Peter and find out about Enabled Intelligence and company that he was looking to start up, I was really intrigued with the idea of making a switch from a 100-year-old massive international company to a brand new startup that really didn't exist yet. So, but the biggest kind of pull for me was the people side of things, and the fact that Peter was looking at starting a technology company, but the first person he was looking to hire was a people focused position. So to me, that really told me that that was the type of organization that I was interested in joining. So I'm a Northern Virginia native, grew up in this area, so I've been here most of my whole life, and was kind of excited to do something totally different.
Gotcha. Yeah, what a switch. 100-year-old real estate / hospitality business to an idea. That's a bit of a risk. Would love to hear a little bit of how you decided to take that plunge from a just personal risk perspective. Probably pretty established, pretty stable trajectory of what you would look for in Hilton, going to what was nothing more than a concept at the time. That's kind of crazy. It's worked out, but still probably a little scary.
Yeah. Well, I will be totally transparent that I did have the push of COVID and the hospitality industry taking a massive hit. But, people kept asking me, when I was looking for new opportunities, like, what industry do you want to work in? Which companies are you targeting? I was very established in the military space. So, I think a lot of people were kind of pushing me towards staying in the military realm. But the biggest things when I was sitting there trying to think about what it was that I wanted to do next, was that I wanted something that I had the ability to build and collaborate on without a bunch of red tape and a bunch of hierarchy. And having the ability to impact people and being with other leaders that were, on the same page about the impact that focusing on people has on your bottom line and on your business. So I never had considered working for a startup or even probably a company, as small as Enabled Intelligence even is now. But once I got introduced to Peter and kind of learned about his vision and, learned about his tenured career and successful career he had. This is not a startup being run by a 23-year-old, recent grad in Silicon Valley. He has the experience to back this up. So, learning about this opportunity was something that just, really actually aligned with what it was that I was looking for in the opportunity, regardless of the type of company or industry that it was in. So, I decided to go for it.
Very cool. Well, before we get too far down the path of getting into enabled intelligence, let me first say, as a Marine vet, myself, want to say thank you for being concerned with helping my brothers and sisters in arms find out what's next. It is a tough transition. And for our military that's been engaged in armed conflict now for 20 years, I know we wrap things up in Afghanistan, but that was tough. That was tough on the services. And it's difficult to transition from military life to civilian life. It's even more difficult to transition from combat to corporate life, right? Civilian life that's not involved in combat. And we've got a generation of our military that have been in combat for 20 years. And that transition's hard. And I appreciate you being part of the ecosystem to help them make that transition, and that you did that for so long. Appreciate that. As a vet myself, and as the brother to two other Afghan and Iraqi war vets, it's tough to watch them transition. It's hard.
Oh yeah, it is. It was an honor to work in that space and assist such a deserving group of people, and definitely appreciate and grateful for you and your family's service as well. So
yeah, I think people struggle to understand how much war impacts the psyche of our fighting forces and how tough it is to transition back. And I think we look and see their struggles and don't understand what's underneath and how hard it is. So your heart for that is important to us, me and to us on this podcast and at Compass. I like you mentioned briefly you wanted to be focused on people. We're a land development and data center construction business, but we start with our people. We're big focus on culture. We believe culture and people are how the business grows. And that's important to us, and would love to transition and let you start to talk about Peter's vision and what enabled intelligence, what made him have the idea, why do y'all go about it the way you do, what it is you're doing. Let's start there and we'll build from that point.
Yeah, sure. So, I shared with you earlier, I am not a technical person. Obviously, I'm on the people side of things. So the way that I explain what we do here at Enabled Intelligence is definitely more in plain terms. So I guess I'll start there just to kind of, set the stage for what it is that we do here at Enabled Intelligence. So we do data labeling and data annotation. Well, that's what we started with and still is the bulk of our business. But the example I always use is, when you're signing onto a website and you are asked to prove that you are not a robot, and, most people use CAPTCHA as the tool to do that. And you're given, the images to select.
Which ones have sidewalks?
Yes.
Which one has mountains?
Motorcycles or whatever.
Yeah, right, exactly. I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah. And they are these, to us, like, pretty blurry images that you're looking at. But they're all street level eye view images. Someone has had to sit there and label thousands of images of crosswalks or stop signs or, cars or whatever the object is to be able to train the computer to be able to automatically identify those through AI technology. Those images, are actually very clear compared to the type of images that we work on. Most of our client base is federal government, so we work a lot within DoD, a lot within the IC community, and we are working more on geospatial imagery, satellite imagery, so aerial imagery, where the objects that we are looking for are much harder to identify, and getting into very specifics of not just a car or a plane, but we're to looking at that's a MiG-29, that's a a very specific type of ship. We're, looking for lots of different types of objects. Most of what we do is imagery, but we work on full motion video, we work on text, handwriting projects, audio, kind of a wide variety of different types of data. So our annotators are going through and being trained to become experts in identifying these different objects or ontologies, and then going through and actually labeling these images to be sent back, or labeling the data to be sent back to our client so they can use that towards creating an AI model to be able to have technology to automatically identify and alert for these different things that they're looking for. So when Peter came up with the idea for the company, and he came up with this idea years prior through working at different technology companies, where this kept coming up as an issue, where to move forward with projects they were given, they needed their data labeled, and there wasn't anyone to do it within the US, because most of this work tends to be outsourced to overseas, where we cannot send DoD and IC data and information. So the kind of concept for the actual technology piece started years ago.
You don't want the Russians confirming that's their MiG in the picture? Hey, can you let us know? Is that it looks like your MiG on the? They might be really good at it. Yes, that is a MiG-29.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Here you go, United States military.
We're glad to tell you.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So we then started thinking about, okay, what is the workforce going to look like that we're going to hire to do this? And Peter had heard about a program that the Israeli Defense Forces had, where in Israel there is 2 years of mandatory military service for everyone, and one of the previous disqualifiers were people that were neurodiverse. There's a lot of different things included in neurodiversity, but one of the more well-known diagnoses within neurodiversity is being on the autism spectrum. So just for one of the examples, but they created a program, 2 different programs, but one of them was in their cybersecurity sector, where they started aligning some of their neurodivergent population into this program, and started putting them into these programs that they were just really, really excelling at. And some of the characteristics that, that they were listing off was, extremely detail oriented, process oriented, being able to recognize patterns and, analytical thinking. Not always, but sometimes, more asocial and hyper-focused. So, we started looking at some of the work that we were going to be doing, and a lot of these things aligned. In the US, this population also, unfortunately, is a lot of times overlooked. They're either unemployed or underemployed. So it's also a readily available talent pool to pull from, and kind of untapped talent pool to pull from. So we decided that we were going to have a mission to have a focus on hiring people with disabilities, and a big focus on that neurodiversity piece. So we set out with a goal to stay at least 30% people with disabilities. Originally, we had actually planned to have most of our team members with people with disabilities, but after consulting with some different partners that specialize in this space, we actually were advised to create integrated employment opportunities. So, just having, it be a normal job opportunity and not a specialized program like some other companies are out there doing. So, it's not a different job opportunity. It's not a different set of expectations. It's not a different training program. Everything is the same for everyone, regardless of disability or not. But we have really built our company with all of this in mind, on creating a very inclusive environment, from our job requirements, the way that we do our screening process, to the way that we do training and communicate different things within the company. We have done all of this to try to set up our diverse workforce for success.
So Lauren, you said that there's data labeling and data annotating is the core business. What other things have grown from there? What other things are you guys doing?
Yeah, so we actually have a data science team in-house now, where we are actually creating some of our own models. So we are kind of having that full life cycle where we have also done data curation. So clients coming to us a lot of times have their data already. But we have the ability and have had clients that have come to us and asked us to actually go out, get the data, prepare it, annotate it, and then we also are able to create and test our own models, which has, a lot of benefits because we're able to do things a lot more quickly. For example, we have a client that was working on a project that they had been working on for about 5 years. And we were able to do the amount of work that they had done in 6 months with a much, much, much lower cost than they had experienced. So now they've just handed all of that over to us because we're able to do it better, quicker, and cheaper than them. It's that was always kind of in our plans to continue to grow and then move more into the full AI life cycle, but that's happened a little bit quicker, I think, than we had originally planned, which is awesome.
Yeah, growing faster than you expected, or finding new lines of business sooner than you expected is pretty cool stuff. All right, so help me. I'm gonna ask a question, and if I sound dumb, you can tell me I sound dumb. But I get the data labeling, I get annotating, looking at images, helping an AI engine know what they're looking at. How far into that part of the process? How far into, because I think about this as all a front end or inputs for AI. How far into the AI modeling? I know you said you started doing your own data science group. How far into AI modeling do you guys get? Or are you really just providing the inputs?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, most of what we're doing is providing the client back that fully labeled and QC'd data, and then they take that and put it into a model that they've built. But on the projects where we're actually building the model for them, testing the model, it's, we're doing that full piece for them and then handing them back that full model with the annotated data in it, and actually a trained model. So it's not just built, tested, but then it's also the model has been trained.
And is most of this stuff, you mentioned DOD and IC, is most of what you do tented? Is most of it SCIF related work?
It's a mix. So we actually just moved into brand new office space that we built out, including the secure space. It was in the fall. So we are, kind of ramping up on the secured work. And because, there's very limited resources besides us in that area, I think, that could quickly take over the unclassed work.
Gotcha. So let's tie this back. So you, Chief People Officer, which, by the way, love the fact that you were hire number one, employee number two. So as you staff up this work, and I hear it when you talk about, hey, we're not going to have unique job descriptions for neurodiverse employees versus other employees. We're going to have a job description and we're going to mix the teams. I think that's a super healthy way to look at it. Can you talk to me as the Chief people officer, right? This is human capital you're deploying, right? You're having to have someone look at and label that you're doing this with human beings. What's it been like to lead the development of that team and the makeup of that team? Because employee number 2, you've been in the primary chair from day one. So talk about it from a people perspective.
Yeah, so we really tried to look at what was actually going to be needed for success in this role, and success as a team, and pull back everything else. And a lot of those things that we're pulling back are barriers for people that have not just neurodiversity, but people with other disabilities, or just other, I don't even want to call them limitations, but just diverse backgrounds in the sense of, like college degrees. We do not require college degrees. We do not require previous IT experience, annotation experience. To be totally honest, we really don't require like any previous working experience at all, because of course there are certain types of experience and certain degrees or certain certifications that definitely will be beneficial and can make a stronger candidate for us. But we were pretty confident in the fact of that all of the training that we give to our team members is in-house. So when you do that and you kind of take somebody that's more green and you're able to really mold them and build them with how we do things and our technical view on things and the knowledge that we want them to have and strategy that we want them to use versus maybe even, some of our competitors. We've seen that some of our most successful and highest performing team members are people that have, no working experience or no relative working experience or degrees. So we've really just tried to strip away those things. We've stripped away, every job description says strong verbal and written communication skills required. It's like, why? For certain jobs, sure, of course. But for a lot of them, is that actually something that the person needs to be successful? And, in the neurodiversity space, not everyone, but a lot of people, they might struggle making eye contact. They might not be big verbal communicators. So we have, really taken away these requirements and expectations and kind of the way that we view and evaluate candidates on like how they're actually going to be successful. And we really just look at what their potential is to be successful in the role versus what their past was. So, it's looking at, are they able to follow directions? Are they able to absorb the type of training that we're going to be doing? Are they able to have kind of that analytical thinking and focus that it takes to do this type of work? And the way that we evaluate that is that we've kind of reversed our recruiting process, where the first thing that we do is a technical assessment versus a lot of people having assessments at the end of a recruiting process. Because for us, like a resume, there's not really much on a resume that matters, that tells us if they're going to be a good fit for us or not. That assessment also is kind of two-sided, where it lets the candidate see, is this the type of work that I could see myself doing every day for, 40 hours a week? Because our jobs are full-time, and it's not for everyone. It is, it can be definitely straining. It can be repetitive. So, depending on the type of data, it's definitely not for everyone. So, that's, we want to give them an opportunity to test out the type of work that they would be doing as well.
Have you seen the series Severance on streaming? I think it's on Apple Plus.
No, but I have heard about it.
Yeah, there's a group in that building that does a data analysis, and you talking about all day repetitiveness. It makes me think of that show on that department in Severance, where they're looking at computer screens 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, just moving data around. It reminds me of what you're describing. So if you've not seen Severance, or audience hasn't, it may not resonate, but that's what I think of when I hear you describing it.
Now I'm going to have to watch it. Yeah. Like we really try to focus on, ways that our team members can avoid burnout and, keeping themselves healthy with, getting up and encouraging them to take, at least 10 minutes an hour, moving around. We got them all stand-up desks in our new office space, and we have different like kind of decompression rooms that they utilize a lot throughout the day, where they can go in and it's just a private space where they can sit. And, a lot of them have started taking power naps, which, we are totally supportive of whatever, people need to be productive, which we know is different for everyone. And we really try to, enable them to do that. So, we have very flexible schedules. We have some people that come in as early as 5-6 a.m. and they're leaving, in the afternoon to 2 p.m. We have people come in at 9:30 and stay till 7. We also put in place a 4-day work week for people that want it. So some of our team members work 10-hour days and Monday through Thursday, and they don't come in on Fridays. We tried a few different things with scheduling, and then we said, let's just pull it all back and give them basically as much flexibility as we can. They can come and go whenever they want. They don't have to tell us when they're coming and going. And it's been amazing for them. It's worked really well. It's, a few of them that were struggling with their schedules before, it just kind of resolved all that. So, that's one of those things that I think it's like, you have to sometimes take a little bit of a risk and try something different too that could make a big impact for your team, instead of being so stuck in like, this is how we've always done it. So we can't even think about doing something different.
So Lauren, I love thinking about it from the people angle. I'm going to ask you one more people question. You've brought up autism. You use the phrase neurodiverse. I'm going to admit that in my data center business, we don't use that term. I don't know technically probably what it means really well, but I think about people that are ADHD. For me, I'm severely dyslexic. Talking on the podcast, no one would ever know. Yeah, no one would know talking on a podcast, but if you see me try to write something on a whiteboard and people look at it and they go, Raymond, I don't think all those letters are in the right place, right? And it'll take me 2 or 3 times to, so is that, does it include that? Is the circle that big? That's what I was trying to spit out.
Yeah, it is. And so ADHD, dyslexia, and a few others, dyspraxia, and then there's another one that I always mispronounce, but they're different auditory and speech processing disorders. But yeah, all of that, there's a lot more included in neurodiversity than I, to be totally honest, even knew when I first started this role. So, one of our partners that we work with, who's on our advisory board, that runs a local practice here called Social Grace, that helps people that are neurodivergent with different coaching, therapy, and kind of life skills and job placement. She always talks about we're all neurodiverse. Like, we all think differently. Our brains all work differently, and that's really the kind of outlook that we take here, is that we just try to create a very inclusive space and not focus on a disability or neurodiversity. We are just trying to make it as much space as possible for people to be themselves and be comfortable being themselves, and have different ways of doing things, different ways of communicating, different ways of learning, different schedules. And I think that's something that everyone should be looking at applying to their companies and their businesses, regardless of, what your hiring strategy is, because it's when you try to treat people as individuals and not just put them into a box and allow the space for them to really be themselves, you are going to get so much more out of them. And you are going to create a place where people want to stay, and you're not going to have that high turnover, where it's just another place for them to work. If you treat them like just another employee and just one of, the many, then that's, for them, they could get that anywhere.
Well, I'll say this, Lauren, I needed you guys in my corner when I was in school, because every time I get a bad grade, I'd explain to my teacher, hey, I just think differently. And they would generally say, Raymond, it's because you didn't do your homework, which there was probably some truth to that too. But it could have been that I thought differently. Could have been a little of both. All right, so we definitely have a technology audience. I know you and I both said up front, we're not. This is not necessarily a tech conversation, but AI is a big technology buzzword. It's something everybody's thinking about. We talk about the chips and the computers, and I think it's in the news today. You see, I want to make sure I say it right, Chat GPT, right, and these engines that can help have conversations and help writing and write poems and write music. Right, AI is certainly, I think, in the news. So tell me what you guys at Enabled Intelligence do. Let's not get lost too much in widgets and flux capacitors, but what is it that you guys do? How are you helping enable this AI influence on our world today?
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely, and that Chat GPT thing is, every day I see some new headline about something that it's doing. It's definitely, exciting world to be in, and I really think are just at the tip of the iceberg of how this technology is going to be used. Every day we're hearing from different potential clients, even in the commercial space, in like the medical field, looking at different types of x-rays, looking at insurance companies and paperwork and verifying things using, everyone's looking at how we can do things quicker and more efficiently and cheaper. So, and AI is going to enable that in a lot of different fields.
Can we get the IRS to use AI to get our returns processed faster? Just a suggestion.
Honestly, probably eventually. I mean,
you're in DC. If you know somebody, if you could run by and mention it. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I should talk to our CFO about that and see if maybe he can do some business development and just during tax season go ahead and reach out. Yeah,
that'd be a good. This is a suggestion. I'm just thinking out the box here.
Yeah, but with the bulk of our business being on the federal, national security side of things, that really is, one of our that's part of our mission statement is improving national security and enabling our clients to be able to mobilize these AI tools with the data that we are providing back to them. That often we're learning projects that have been sitting for years and years because they have not been able to move forward without this first step in the piece. So, that's something that our team members take a lot of pride in as well, is, the work that they're doing. And, as much as we can, we share with them about what the client is doing with this and what the mission is, so that they, they're not just sitting there drawing boxes around images. They know that this work is very impactful in the space we're in.
Very cool stuff. Well, Lauren, this has been awesome. I appreciate you chatting with us about it and helping us understand a little bit about how people are the most important thing, and we all think differently, and how this can help keep our nation and secure and keeping our secrets where they need to be. We really, really appreciate you chatting with us, and we'll remind everybody all this stuff eventually happens in a data center somewhere, which is why we like talking about it. So, Lauren, excited to see the future of Enable Intelligence, and as you guys grow and serve not only our country but your people in your org, pretty cool stuff, and appreciate how y'all think about it. Thank you for having joining us today. We appreciate it.